All right, welcome back. We're going to talk about the editing process in this lesson. And this is something that some yearbook staffs do really, really well. In other words, they are very organized with how they edit the pages and edit their book. And frankly, some other groups barely do any kind of editing, which of course is not good. All right, you need to have an editing process in place so that as you march through the rest of the school year, do your book, spring supplement, whatever you produce, you've got a process to make sure that everything in the book is accurate. Every year in my travels, I see yearbooks that are just riddled with mistakes, misspelled words, misspelled names, a lack of consistency when it would have taken just a little bit of effort to fix that up, a lot of errors. And of course, when the yearbook eventually comes out, people are going to notice that stuff. They're going to see misspelled words. If their name is misspelled, they're absolutely going to notice that and not be pleased. They'll come back to you demanding a refund or something like that because you couldn't take the time to spell my name right. So you need an editing process to make sure that none of that happens. Now, hopefully, first off, you took the time to watch the Jostens J-class on Yearbook Avenue called Editing Process. This was done by Jess Hunziker, who's an outstanding yearbook advisor from Colorado. If somehow you didn't watch this one, maybe pause me right here. Go back and watch that J-class. It's not very long. Jess really dives in deep with specific ideas for the process of editing your pages and book. So if somehow you didn't watch it, I'm just going to review a couple of things here. She's got lots more in there, really good information. So make sure you go back and watch that first, all right? Some great tips about editing, especially writing, but still also just pages in general to make sure where we need to be. Like, for instance, one of the things she mentions is an old English class thing, guys. When you have your coverage of whatever, football, homecoming, this club, that activity, this story, whatever it is, have you answered the 5 W's and the H? Guys, this is English class stuff. Who, what, where, when, why, and how. Take some time. Go back, look at your existing pages, depending on when you're watching this, because maybe you've got a page deadline coming up here pretty soon, right? Take a look at your existing pages and the coverage of this topic and that topic and so on. Have you answered the who, what, where, when, why, and how? If somehow you haven't, probably, hopefully not too late to add some material to answer those questions. Recently, I visited a school and I was looking at their pages. They looked really nice. I was looking at the volleyball spread, a lot of great pictures of the girls playing volleyball and captions and so on. Great. Nowhere on the pages did I see any description of, here's what the team did this year. It wasn't there. All right, I reminded them, did they win a championship? Did they somehow go over? And by the way, if they go over, yeah, you got to kind of mention that. Find the positives, but you got to put it in there somewhere. Nowhere found on that spread. And that student, I think, was a little embarrassed, like, yeah, he's right. We have nothing in here that tells our readers and our future readers what did the volleyball team do this year? And so she immediately started adjusting her page spread so that she could put in some areas with paragraphs to determine here's what the team did, here's who the star players were, and so on. 5 W's and H. Make sure you answer those questions. Avoid generalizations and cliches, Jess said. Absolutely. I've seen too many photo captions, which is something like, Joe loves lunchtime. And it's a picture of Joe eating in the cafeteria or something like that. All right, first of all, who's Joe? Joe who? And that's kind of really simplistic. You know, he really loves lunchtime. Why? All right, why is that important? And yes, watch out for cliches. Try never, ever, ever to somehow be funny and cute in the yearbook, because there's going to be probably at least one person out there, you'll put some cute little one-liner in there. That person will not be amused, and of course, they'll then later complain about it. Avoid generalizations and cliches. Get more in-depth. Tell more stories. Here's one. Obvious. Is everybody's name spelled right? Nobody wants their name misspelled in the yearbook, because the yearbook, of course, is forever. And if you misspell somebody's name, not good. Hopefully you already have a class list from the office, which should be everybody's official name, right? First name, last name, make sure they're spelled correctly. Nobody wants to see that in their yearbook. Interesting, one thing Jess mentions is she says, run spell checking 3 times. Now you might think, well, that's overkill, 3 times. No, think about it. You run it once. Please tell me you run it at least once. You run it once, and then maybe you go back and make some adjustments. Okay, you really need to run it again to make sure that whatever new you just put in is okay. Jess says do it 3 times. It is really important to be thorough with your spell checking. Jostens, of course, we got the tools for you. It's very easy. You just have to do it. And it's really, really important. And a lot of other great tips from Jess in that video. Again, if you didn't watch it, please go back and watch it. Here's one thing. You need to make your editing process really a group effort. Here's a cardinal rule. The person who made a page or spread should not be the proofreader. Absolutely not. Why? Because if they made pages or made mistakes on those pages, they're probably not going to pick them up. They didn't pick them up the first time. Probably not the second, third, or fourth time. It needs fresh eyes looking at that page to say, oh, hey, there's a problem there. And if you make this a group effort, I think it's just a lot easier and a lot more thorough to make sure our pages are well looked at. Now, you could use Google Forms, Google Docs and so on to do various kinds of editing. One popular one that some folks do, when the pages are ready to go, they put them up on the big screen of the classroom and the entire group proofreads the spread. And the idea is find mistakes. And so you got a whole bunch of eyes looking at a spread at the same time. All right, and this one, watch over here. Okay, now let's go to the next spread. Find the mistakes, guys. I think that's a great idea. And also, it's a great way to kind of get the whole group together to say, hey, we're in this as a team. We're going to proofread our entire book together. Also, editing pages, watch out for consistency. It's not all about spelling words. How is your color usage? How is your font usage consistently throughout the book? How is your spacing? That's one that gets really ignored in a lot of cases. Make sure that your spacing is nice and clean and the same throughout your book, so you don't have things look like they're all crammed together or somebody threw it together at the last minute. Watch out for that stuff. Group editing can really pick up a lot of that stuff. Okay, let's do a quick activity just for maybe about a minute and a half. And we're going to go 2 directions. Number one, if your group somehow doesn't even have an editing process right now, it's time to start making plans. So in a moment, I want you to start talking, okay, what should we be doing to make sure our editing is good? And if you do have an editing process, take a little time, let's review it. Make sure we're not missing something in the various things that we do, all right? Only about maybe a minute and a half on this one. Let's start the talk on your editing process. How are you going to handle editing now for the rest of this year? All right, ready, set, go. All right, guys, let's do a quick wrap up here, all right? Again, this is obvious, right? Nobody wants misspelled words in the book. That makes you look bad. Nobody wants their name misspelled in the yearbook. That makes you look really bad. And other consistent things. Nobody wants messy looking pages because someone didn't take the time to just do some basic editing to make sure we have some good consistency throughout our book. And it's all wrapped up in the editing process. Once again, not by the person who did the original work. No, 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 no. Needs to be fresh eyes on everything to make sure your book looks its best. Thanks for watching.